Dust motes danced in the single beam of light. Anna pulled the attic string harder, illuminating the cramped space. Musty air, thick with the scent of forgotten things, made her cough. She navigated trunks and cobwebs, her fingers trailing over dusty surfaces. At the back, tucked behind a chipped porcelain doll, sat a dollhouse. Not child-sized, this one. Big, detailed. Intrigued, Anna pulled it free. Cobwebs clung to the miniature furniture inside. She brushed them away, marveling at the tiny details: lace curtains, porcelain teacups, a grandfather clock frozen at midnight. A shiver ran down her spine, an unsettling feeling settling in her stomach. Why did this abandoned attic and its forgotten toy unsettle her so? She picked up the dollhouse, its weight surprising. The air grew colder. Suddenly, Anna felt dizzy, lightheaded. It was as if the attic itself was tilting. She stumbled, dropping the dollhouse with a crash. It landed open, revealing the intricately decorated interior. And that's when she noticed the layout of the dollhouse. It mirrored her own house perfectly. Panic swelled in her chest, a primal fear gripping her heart. Anna backed away, her eyes darting from the open dollhouse to the attic door. The air crackled with unseen energy, the silence broken only by the frantic pounding of her own heart. She wanted to leave, to run, but something held her captive. The dollhouse. It called to her, beckoned her closer. With trembling fingers she reached out, unable to resist its pull. The wood felt strangely warm beneath her fingertips. A jolt, like static electricity, shot up her arm as her fingers brushed against the miniature front door. Anna gasped, pulling her hand back as if burned. But she couldn't help but stare at the dollhouse. Something had changed. The miniature house, once shrouded in dust and cobwebs, now gleamed. She peered closer, her breath catching in her throat. The tiny furniture, once still and lifeless, now pulsed with an eerie life of its own. A fire crackled in the miniature hearth, casting flickering shadows across the tiny room. And the grandfather clock, frozen moments ago, now ticked with a steady rhythm. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Her eyes darted to the miniature version of the attic room she stood in. To her horror, she saw a figure standing in the dollhouse attic. A woman, herself, frozen in a miniature replica of her own terrified pose. Anna stumbled back, knocking over a dusty trunk. The loud thump echoed in the silence, but inside the dollhouse the miniature world continued, undisturbed. Terror coiled in her stomach. This wasn't possible. It was just an old dollhouse. It couldn't be alive. But the heat radiating from the tiny chimney, the flickering firelight in its windows, the impossibly moving clock, they all whispered a different story. A story that sent chills down her spine and made her question everything she thought she knew. From the corner of her eye, she saw movement. The miniature Anna in the dollhouse turned her head, her painted eyes seeming to follow her every move. A cold dread washed over Anna, rooting her to the spot. It felt as though unseen eyes were watching her, their gaze heavy and unnerving. Then she heard it. A whisper, soft and low, carried on the edge of the silence. It seemed to emanate from the dollhouse, weaving its way into her mind like tendrils of smoke. She couldn't quite make out the words, but the tone sent shivers down her spine. It spoke of secrets, of darkness, of a reality beyond her understanding. Panic welled up, threatening to consume her. She had to get out of the attic, away from the dollhouse and its haunting whispers. But her feet felt like lead, her body frozen in place by an invisible force. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, weaving a tapestry of fear and confusion in her mind. Anna squeezed her eyes shut, trying to block out the whispers, the watching eyes, the impossible reality of the dollhouse. But the harder she tried to deny it, the stronger the presence in the attic became, tightening its grip on her senses, her sanity. When she opened her eyes, the attic looked different. The air hung heavier, the shadows deeper. And the dollhouse? It seemed larger, closer than before. Or maybe it was the attic that had shrunk, its boundaries warping and twisting around her. She could no longer tell where the dollhouse ended and her reality began. She stumbled back, her hand connecting with a solid wall. Relief flooded her, momentarily chasing away the fear. But as her fingers traced the familiar floral wallpaper of her childhood bedroom, a chilling realization hit her. This wasn't right. Her bedroom was downstairs, not in the attic. Panic surged through her veins. The whispers intensified, swirling around her like a malevolent wind. The line between the real and the unreal had vanished, leaving her stranded in a terrifying, distorted reflection of her own life. The dollhouse held her captive in its intricate, ever-shifting reality. Tears streamed down her face as the walls pulsed around her, the boundaries of her world dissolving into a dizzying kaleidoscope of fear and uncertainty. Her life, her memories, her very identity felt as fragile and breakable as the porcelain dolls trapped within the walls of the haunted plaything. And in the depths of her terror, a single terrifying question echoed. If the dollhouse now mirrored her reality, what would happen when she stepped back inside? And what would become of her if the two worlds ever fully merged?